you would like to present yourself. Tell us a little more about yourself, your company, and what you're hiring for.
Sounds good. Thanks for having me. So, my name is Chris Chancey. I've been in the industry for about 10 years, and I founded Manavoid straight out of university. So, I've been in the industry 10 years, and it's been for the same company. um, I now teach in two different universities on top of my role as CEO of Manavoid. I teach programming, marketing, and design. I also am the president of our local cluster, our industry cluster here in Quebec called La Guilde du Jeu Vidéo du Québec, which essentially does government representation and offers services to a lot of indie studios here in the province of Quebec. And I also run an incubator accelerator called the Indie Asylum of Montreal, investing in young startups so that they can not make the same mistakes that I did when I started my company, and essentially just trying to make the ecosystem stronger and better. And so yeah, I wear a lot of hats. I don't sleep much, and I'm very happy to talk with everyone here today.
Beautiful. So let's get right to it. So first off, I would like to know more about your current job opening. So first, is it for like to fill in an existing individual, or is this a new additional position
Yeah.
for the
So
like? Yep.
it's a bit of both actually. So basically, we've been in pre-production for a competitive title that we're working on, and our current tech director is going to be moving towards more of a game director role. So he'll be overseeing, creative and tech at the same time. And so we
Mm-hmm.
need someone to come in and just take a bit of the coding work that he used to have on his table, so that we're able to stay on track with the production. And so it's a new role that is opening, but it's it'll be heavily supported by a team of people who are already working on the game. So it's not like someone is coming in with a lot of things to structure and take care of. There's there's a lot of tooling that's been done, and it's just that we're kicking off production now, so we need someone to come in and help us do the work.
Cool, cool. And this position is for Montreal only, correct?
Correct. For us, being in Montreal and having the camaraderie and be able to kind of share our culture and workspace is important. And so we are looking for someone in the city, or like city and around the city, I guess, but anyone who can kind of come to work every once in a while
Mm.
for the current role.
And just for those international folks, like, would it be, have you ever considered international hires or will you in the future?
We do consider everyone, like we're looking for the best candidate for the position, and then obviously if it's an international hire, we're willing to kind of see what we can do. Like we are a very culture first company, so I feel like there is some strength to being able to have people that come to the studio every once in a while and kind of partake in all of the social like events that we create. But I mean, for specialized roles, we already work with people overseas, so I mean, it's not something that's impossible for sure.
Cool. Um, so I have a question about just prior programming hires. I would like to know, like, for the people who want to apply, like, what stood out to you the most, and what made you decide to hire them? And what kind of advice can you give those folks that are looking to, like, just apply for your role in general?
It really depends on the experience of the person. So if we receive CVs where people have over 7 years of experience and have shipped a few games, in general, we're mostly going to go with the interview process to be able to see if the candidate is a good fit for us. We'll talk about obviously previous tech jobs and specific modules that they might have created on games, that kind of stuff. If it's more of a junior, position, or if it's someone who has less experience, then we'll go through those things. But we like to see as well as a portfolio of maybe game jams or specific coding that they've done in the past. And we are also always kind of on the lookout for anything that can kind of showcase the talent that you might have brought through university or through projects that you've made in the past. And then depending on the position, if it is for a more junior candidate, then we also have sometimes a programming test that we send out that doesn't take very long, so that we can just kind of get a feel for how the person thinks when we're attacking a coding problem, for example.
Hmm. Yeah, no, that sounds good. So I would like to know a little more about deterministic rollback. So you say that as a qualification for the role. Could you briefly explain what this means for the audience?
So the current title we're working on is a fighting game title. It's unannounced, and basically, you know, we feel like there's a huge gap in between people who are making fighting titles, but like with a very indie budget, and people who are making it with a triple A budget. There's like a really big spectrum there, a big gap where that I feel can be filled with a triple I kind of indie title that has more budget behind it than most indies might have, but like
Mm,
obviously not a 200-person team either. So
yeah.
rollback netcode is essentially something that allows you to optimize frame rates and make sure that there's no lag or input delay when you're making a fighting game. And so the best fighting games all have rollback netcode because it's extremely frustrating because it's so time sensitive with the inputs to make a good fighting game, that without rollback netcode, if you're going online, you'll usually have issues with lag and stuff like that. So if someone has worked
Mm,
with that kind of stuff in the past, it's definitely a plus for us because it's something that we're currently working on.
definitely.
It's a very niche it's a very niche talent. So we're not expecting all of the applicants to have that in their background. And there's not that many fighting games that are coming out there. So
Yeah.
it's we put it out there just in case that we can find that special someone. But if you're interested in the position, that has nothing to do with if we're going to hire you or not.
Cool. So does that mean that like it's something like it's a skill that someone can say like, oh yeah, like I'm very into learning how this works.
Yeah, I think,
Yeah.
someone who's like passionate about, competitive titles and then specifically fighting games is definitely a plus for us. And yeah, if they've seen what it is and are willing to dabble in it and kind of attack it head on, then that's what we're looking for.
Cool. And about your current project, is there anything more like specifically that the new hire will be working on?
So currently the team we have a it's a strategy fighting game. So it's a very weird mix of genres that we're making. So we have programmers already for the strategy side of things. Now we're looking for someone to really take care of the fighting game part of things. So that's what the hire would be working on. It's really the
Mm,
fighting game and making sure that our tooling is good for that. Our pipelines are, all set, and that our online is working well. And they'll be working with our tech director as well to be able to succeed in the role. So we're if you're just a few years into your programming experience, it's not that big of a problem because you'll be supported by veterans of the industry. And so as long as you're willing to learn, we're willing to see your candidacy.
that sounds awesome. So I'll change a little subjects and just working in at Manavoid, especially, I'm reading the advantages on your job post, and I see that you have a 4-day work week. And I was wondering if you had that since a long time. Like, since when has this been in place? Have you noticed any advantages or disadvantages compared to full week?
Sure. I actually gave. I was lucky enough to be invited to give a panel on this at the GDC this year, so
Oh, awesome.
I'm well versed in the 4-day week jargon. Yeah, we've been doing the 4-day week since 2019, so before the pandemic. So this isn't new for us. It's like a process that we've pretty much optimized at this point. It was based off of a study that we had read was done in Scandinavia, obviously, where they uh, they had figured out that in a general work week, like a 5-day work week, everyone is usually focused at work for like 4.5 hours out of a normal 8-hour day. So
Mm-hmm.
basically, obviously during the day, you'll get up, you'll check your phone, you'll talk with a friend, you'll do other things, and then there's really 4 hours and a half where you're actually focused on the work you're supposed to be doing. And what the study was saying is that when you're cut it down to a 4-day work week, the focused hours per day actually go higher. They go up to 530, even 6 hours in some cases of focused work per day. So in fact, on the 4-day work week, you're not really losing any focused work as compared to the 5-day work week. So
Mm.
what we did is a true 4-day work week. So it's a 32-hour week. And basically, we have seen no real drop in production since we've implemented it in 2019. Obviously, the people that we hire, we expect to be able to kind of self-manage their schedules and their times. We give a lot of flexibility on that stuff as well. In the end, we're on a sprint-based planning for our projects, and as long as you deliver your sprint, you do it in 4 days or 5 days or 3 days. It really doesn't matter to us. We just make sure that we just want to make sure that milestones are hit and that everything is getting done and people are able to communicate. So the 4-day work week for us works from Monday to Thursday, and we ask everyone to be online and available between 10 and 4 every day, so that at
Mm.
least if there are meetings to be had or if anyone needs like to talk with a colleague, well, during those periods people are available. And then some people like to start work a little earlier, some people like to start work a little later, and so it's pretty flexible on that side of when people come in and start doing their thing.
Awesome. Um,
Like we had to optimize a few things with the 4-day work week. So, meetings especially. We used to have meetings where like the entire team would come and join into a design meeting and everyone could like, just jump in
yeah.
like so we optimized everyone's time by making sure that people that are in meetings like are need to be there, and then that we find ways to communicate like what comes out of those meetings to the rest of the team. And then production was also optimized to make it work on a 4-day week. So basically, it's a 4-day work week for everyone except the directors, who on the Friday morning will meet up for like a leadership kind of meeting where they'll do some sprint planning and kind of have a chat about how the project is advancing throughout the week. But then
Oh,
but they'll leave pretty early, and then they'll have like half a day on the Fridays. But it's only the leadership group that has the half a day on the Fridays. The rest is all 4-day work week.
I see. No, that's very interesting. So does that mean that like they take it easy during during the week in exchange, or does it just like include the half day in their contract?
It includes the half day in their contract, and they usually
Cool.
get paid a little more. So I think
Okay.
it's a fair trade. Because some people we've found don't want the 4-day work week. That's one of the biggest challenges. Some people are really ambitious and really really want to learn and only want to make games, and honestly, some people find like their social fun in life being at work and chatting with people. So those people that are really like gung ho on wanting to work like crazy, instead of trying to force them to do the 4-day work week, we found that bringing them maybe in leadership meetings and being able to kind of give them additional formation on the Fridays is a way to kind of bring them into more of a leadership role faster, and then
Mm.
be able to maybe take some more on. But obviously, it's not something that is for everyone, and it's not something that we necessarily encourage in house. We think the 4-day work week is where we're at, and we want everyone to feel comfortable doing that 4-day work week. And it has nothing to do also with advancing or leadership positions. We have people who've done the 4-day work week who eventually became leaders just because they were exceptional and they were working really hard and they did great work. And so we always try to bring our people from within to rise within the ranks so that they can take over projects.
Oh, that's awesome to hear. So speaking about just like some of the advantages, like 4-day work week, what other advantages can you highlight for us for working at Manavoid?
Yes. So we on top of the 4-day work week, we offer breakfasts and lunch paid. Usually, I mean, right now with with the pandemic, there's still a lot of people that are working from home.
Yeah.
But yeah, we want you to be able to wake up in the morning and go to work and not have to think about anything. We try to make it as easy as possible. Every month we have social activities for everyone in the hub where we're at. So Manavoid is one studio, part of the Indie Asylum, which is the hub that we've created, which is 160 devs now. And so, we try and create moments where everyone can exchange and learn, like not just from our studios or our projects internally, but from all of the studios that are inside the Indie Asylum as well. And so we have a lot of that. Also, we have collective insurance, pretty generous ones, I think. So, dental, eyes, paramedical services like, going to physio or, getting a massage every once in a while. We have telemedicine services, which allows you to meet with nurses and doctors online without having to move to and go to a hospital, which was really, I think, good during the pandemic, because it allowed people to kind of stay safe at home and still be able to maybe get a prescription for something they might need. And also, we have an in-house social worker. So if ever something is going a little bit weird in your life, or you want to talk to someone on the Fridays, she takes meetings, and it's completely confidential. I have no idea who she meets, but it's another resource just to make sure that everyone's mental health is good, and that they're getting all the help they can need, for us to succeed together. Like the way that
Yeah.
the way we see it is, making games is half like a computer and the other half is a human. And if you can take care of the humans, you're going to be doing some better work, and people are going to be feeling more fulfilled, I think, at work.
Definitely. Yeah. Um, and so Maggie asks, um, so how do you support professional development for your employees? So she put in parentheses conferences, courses, workshop, etc.
That's a super good question. So we do have master classes and lunch and learns that we give in house. So our senior developers, like during the year, will oftentimes build a presentation on something that they're really like, talented, and kind of just make sure that they're trying to make everyone ramp up. As I mentioned, like we're part of the Indie Asylum, which is like a bigger hub. So there's 8 studios and 160 devs. So we have co-production circles. So basically, all of the programmers can meet up in a huge call, and then if someone has an issue, they can kind of raise the issue, and a lot of programmers will try and attack the problem and see how they can fix it together. So there's a lot of like help from other studios, a lot of sharing of information in house. Every once in a while, we have master classes from people from outside studios. Oftentimes, AAA developers that might come in and you give a class to everyone in the Indie Asylum, and so everyone has access to that. And then if ever there's like a really specific course that you'd like to take, you can always raise it with your lead, and then like I think in 95% of cases we'll pay the course, especially if it's an online course that other people can then also use. We'll pay it and put it like in the main account that we have for the studio, and then anyone who would want to follow that course afterwards could kind of take it as well. So we're pretty flexible on people who want to do continuous training.
Hmm.
We try and create as much space as possible for people to be able to do it. I would love to do more of it. Like I think we have like one or two master classes a year for specific roles, but it's a question of time and budget always. So,
Yeah.
uh, but we do, I think, a bit more than most indie studios do, and we're still going to be working on doing always more in the future.
Amazing. So before that, I let the community take over with questions. I would like to know more about Indie Asylum. I know you mentioned like some perks of just being in a like collaborative space. I would like to know the origins of it and what made you decide that a collaborative space like that would be like really beneficial to your studio.
So basically, in 2017, like one of the things that we realized, me and my partners, was there was a lack of funding for studios coming up. So, people coming out of university or even people spinning off from AAA companies trying to start a studio, usually you come from like a design background or an art background or a programming background. And so, you don't necessarily know everything you need to know to run a business. And so that's another thing that we thought was something that was lacking is just, general managerial aptitudes. And so we created a boot camp, which was kind of like an entrepreneur boot camp for people who wanted to start their indie studio. And we started in 2017, and then we started investing in companies that were coming out of the boot camp and who we believed they had like a strong entrepreneur group and the projects were interesting and they were like targeting a niche that we didn't know much of. And so, we started investing in these companies and helping them grow and helping them find publishers and financing and so on and so forth. And like organically every year we bring in one or two studios and like the Indie Asylum kind of grew from just that feeling of wanting to help each other get better at making games and selling games as indies.
Yeah.
And yeah, today we're 160 developers. We're 8 companies that span from virtual reality, walking simulators, games that are like Twitch based. We have Metroidvania games. We have Manavoid, which is more like PC console. Like I guess more Red Ocean type games. Like we're competing with the big players in those
Yeah.
arenas. Um, and yeah, we're learning faster, I think, than most other indie studios because like I end up shipping more than one game a year through all of the people that I'm helping out. And it allows us to kind of collectively get better and eventually make more money and be able to have better, salaries for everyone and make sure everyone is
Yeah.
growing faster. Because it's tough when you're an indie, like especially a small indie team, you're shipping a game every 3 years. So trying to understand how to ship a game efficiently without the help of a publisher is really, really difficult. And so, we saw that it was a way for us to just collectively learn really, really faster. And then, there all of the social advantages of having a huge group. Like if ever I have a specific issue on a title, there's like so many people in the Indie Asylum that I usually get my answer, talking with other studios or other people in those studios. So it's a really cool place that we've built. I think, the culture is really good. We're very like I know everyone probably says this, but we're a really inclusive, diverse group. I mean, Manavoid in particular is run majoritarily by BIPOC people. Like I think it's always been part of our values to be as open-minded as possible. People who work with us have a lot of agency in their work. And the Indie Asylum espouses those values as well. So every studio that's there, everyone is super nice. Everyone is really open to work with others, to jump on a production every once in a while. Sometimes people jump from one project to the other because they're helping other studios. So it's kind of like just a really cool collaborative hub where everyone is there for the right reasons, which is making awesome games.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. And like I hope that you set an example, right? Because I feel the collaborative spaces like that can be the future for indie games, especially.
Yeah, our dream scenario is that we're able to do it so good in Montreal that people want to replicate it elsewhere in the world, and that we can kind of help build hubs, in Europe and in America, and then eventually in Asia, and kind of have like a span it worldwide. We're trying to show that there's an alternative to the way that people have been running studios in the past, and it's really possible to make games in a very healthy, humane way where you don't feel like you're working every day and you just feel like you're, you know, just being like a passionate developer doing your thing. Um,
Yeah.
so we're trying to blur that line as much as possible and we're trying to do better than what I've seen when I was a worker in my youth, basically.
Amazing. So I have one tiny small questions before we leave it to the audience. So I was curious about, the colorful and adventurous vibes of Rainbow Billy. What made you switch gears to a fighting game with strat tactical elements?
So for us at Manavoid, we've always been about mixing and matching genres in crazy ways. So like our first game, Epic Manager, for example, was it was like a sports simulator mixed with an RPG, right? So you had an adventuring guild and you were signing like adventurers and like giving them salaries and sending them out to on a world map to do quests and bring back gold so you could hire better adventurers and so on and so forth. And so it's not like we're reinventing the wheel every time. We're basing ourselves on things that we know are already fun, but just showcasing it in a way that's never been packaged before. And Rainbow Billy was that as well. It was a lot of light platforming with the RPG elements of like a Pokemon, for example. And then we added a color twist to it where everything was in black and white and you needed to recolor the entire world. And so, the new titles that we're working on are just as crazy. People might say that I'm stupid to not stake in the same genre all the time and just do one type of game and do it really well. But currently, Manavoid has a city builder in the works. We have a competitive title now that we're working on. We have more narrative titles, and so I think it's fun to keep trying to surprise people and to keep people on their toes. And when you're a fan of what we do, you're a fan of just games that like dare to innovate and dare to showcase something new. And just dare to go where other developers have never gone before. So we feel like we're kind of the experimental explorers of the video game space. So yeah, it might be a bit of a pivot from Rainbow Billy to our fighting game, but then again, like our values always shine through the games that we make. So Rainbow Billy was all about like celebrating unicity and diversity and all of that stuff, and it's something that we're also bringing into most of our titles. I mean, the fighting game we're working on has some elements of that, and we're making sure that this game is not overly violent. We're making sure that the game is inclusive in the cultural representations that we're going to have. We're making sure that the game has like no overly sexualized characters as well, because these are all things that you see in current fighting titles that make them very like much less accessible to the bigger public. And when you see like the best fighting games that have been coming out, games like Super Smash, for example, you have that like level of accessibility, and I think that's the way that a healthy game should look like, right? So we're
Yeah.
we're kind of aiming to be like the palatable, like the Fortnite of fighting games. Like it's a shooter, but it doesn't like feel that bad like in terms of violence or the rest. And we're trying to bring that to the fighting game as well, and then twisting it obviously with a strategy twist that you've never seen before in a fighting game.
Beautiful. Thank you. Okay, so we're 30 minutes in. We're going to take questions from the community. So if you have not already, you can post your question in the event chat channel. So relating to like just, mixing kind of genres of games. Where is it? Okay, yeah. So Maggie asks, I noticed on your company's website that you want to combine game mechanics in your games. Are there any specific games you can link to your inspiration for the games your studio makes?
Like I mentioned, we make such various games that every game is inspired by a plethora of different things. So like, obviously our current fighting title is inspired by other fighting games. So, Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat, those types of games are definitely inspirations. But then, those are like extremely violent or overly sexualized games. So we're not trying to take those things from it, just like mechanically what they're doing well. Um, we feel also that there's an opportunity with this game where to have that level of accessibility, not just in terms of what you're showcasing in terms of content, but also having like a proper onboarding for a fighting game. Like for example, if I play Street Fighter today competitively, I'm gonna get destroyed for like 200 matches straight before I can win one,
For
because
sure.
oftentimes matchmaking isn't really well done, and people don't get onboarded the right way, so I don't know how to play right. So these are like issues that we're kind of attacking with the game. So like I guess that might be the inspiration specifically for this title. And then for the strategy part, we're really inspired by the rise of auto chess and those types of games as well. So I'm not going to say too much on that part, but that's kind of the direction that we're going in, is having like a strategy element to the game that helps you in the fighting game part.
Beautiful. Okay, so in order. So game dev 7354. I'm a student learning C++. What specific C++ and Unreal C++ things are you looking for in portfolio pieces?
That's an excellent question that my tech director could so much better answer than me. Like, I honest, I can honestly not code C++, so I couldn't specifically tell you. What I can say is, portfolios of games that you've done in game jams show us that you've collaborated with other people and that you were daring enough to try and do something crazy in 2 days. And we love seeing game jam stuff. And then just not just the build though. If you can send like snippets of code of things you've done in the past in C++, it just allows us to get a better idea of where your level is at, and then seeing how that fits into what we can teach you and how we can bring you in. So, even if it's not like the best code you've ever written, it doesn't matter because it still gives us an insight into how you build things and how you think when you're programming. And so snippets of code on top of like builds and portfolios and showing us, what you feel you're really good at are all things that we want to see in portfolio pieces. So for example, I had a programmer once apply at Manavoid, and he showed me the ugliest game I've ever seen. It was like basically cubes with stick figures. But looking at the code, my programmers were like, "Yeah, it's really beautiful code." So we knew that this programmer specifically had like sensitivities towards more of the back end of making video games. So right now on in our staff, this person is taking care of tooling and taking care of like save systems and things that are crucial to the experience, but like people don't necessarily see in front. And then we've had candidates like come in and say, "Listen, I shipped this entire mobile game on my own." And then you can really tell that they have a sensitivity for more of the front end stuff. So, programming UI, for example, or animations or that level
Yeah.
of things. So for us, just getting a feel for the like what you're good at and what your sensitivities are allows us to see where you can fit into the project, and just gives us a better insight on how we can help you out.
Cool. Okay, next question. Well, yeah, I hope game dev. I hope this answered your questions. So, Pixel Taku, can you elaborate on what you look for in a that's like similar. Um,
I think this
so
person is an artist, right?
yeah, so not just for coding positions. So I'm guessing just in general. Like, what do you look for in a portfolio when you're hiring for any position? Let's go with
Um,
that.
Yeah, well, I mean, you're like, again, like you're just showcasing what you're the best at. And sometimes that's like different art styles, maybe showcasing a variety of art styles, so just to show that you have range and that you're able to adapt. So for an artist, that's something that we would look at. Again, any collaborative experiences where you were like the artist on a game, like a small team for a contest or whatever, those are things that we will always appreciate seeing. Yeah, I guess for artists specifically, depending on the position, is it more level art or character art? Like obviously, the more range you have, the better it is, particularly for an indie studio, because we often all wear different hats. Because we're smaller teams, so sometimes 2D artists might do some character work, and then they might do some environment work, and so being able to showcase that you have range is definitely something that we're looking for as well on the art side of things.
That's amazing. Um, I hope that answered your question, Pixel Taku. Next question is from Eunice Fees. I'm sorry if I'm butchering your name. Um, so, uh, I'm a recent CS college grad that has been having trouble finding work since graduation. How much on the job training do you offer, if at all, for people getting into the field? So I'm guessing it's like for junior
Right.
roles when you do hire them.
So like yeah, if it is a junior position, you usually are onboarded and are part of like a team where you're with at least three or four other programmers that'll be able to help you ramp up and learn the way that we do things. We love hiring junior developers because they're not like their spirit isn't broken by the AAA industry yet. So every time we hire AAA devs, sometimes they come in and it takes some time to kind of bring them into our pipeline because they're really set in their ways, or they're so used to doing something a certain way that trying to change the way that they see the world or do things is kind of like an ordeal. But with junior developers, everyone comes in and are usually eager to learn, and we love that. So we're able to kind of bring people through our pipeline of onboarding. There's a lot of documentation that we have in house, usually for our projects. So coming in like the first few weeks is all about learning the documentation, seeing the tools that we use, getting used to the back end of the code, for example, in terms of computer science. And then you'll be given a specific mandate after those few weeks, where you'll kind of like start like specializing yourself in a certain field and having regular talks with your tech lead that should be helping you ramp up. So that's how we approach getting people, through the door once they're out of university. In terms of like having trouble finding work since graduation, I'm sorry to hear that. It's surprising, honestly, because here in Quebec, there's a work shortage for programmers specifically. So if you're willing to move, I could guarantee you'll find work here pretty quick. Everyone is
Yeah.
looking for more programmers. So, I think that plays into your second question, which is what is your remote worker options, right? So, like I mentioned earlier, for us, we're willing to look at remote work, but it's not something that we prefer personally, just because like a lot of people hire people for their talents, and we hire people more for their culture. So, it's important to us, obviously, that, people are talented, but especially that they're willing to learn. But what's more important to us is that people fit in and kind of come in with like a really positive attitude and wanting to learn about everyone in the team and kind of trying to become friends with everyone. That's what we're looking for is more like of a sociable developer. And so like part of that is being at the studio and being able to have the water cooler conversations that bring you to you know for us to know you better and for you to know everyone else better. And so we prioritize, I think, local workers first. But again, for specialized position, we already have people that are doing remote work for us. So it's not a necessarily a no. It's just more of I think it's like a case by case thing where we
Mm.
prefer having people locally in house that can come to the studio every once in a while and high five me in the morning.
Understandable. Um, so, does that mean that you have an actual water cooler?
We do. We actually have we also
Oh
have
my god.
we have 3 beer taps as well that are
Oh
constantly
dear.
refilled. So there's a lot of that.
Oh, that's amazing. Um, okay, so next question. Okay, yeah, Safakon asks, would you consider a candidate who is a netcode gameplay programmer with no experience in Unreal, but a couple of years experience in Unity?
Absolutely. I think like learning one engine or another, like we have titles in Unity and we have titles in Unreal, and I think there's a strength to be able to be engine agnostic. In the end, it's just learning a new language, and there's a lot of similarities between C Sharp and C++. So I don't think it's like a big issue, and there's still like a lot of just architectural things that you'll be bringing into the fold, which is super interesting. Maybe even if it comes from Unity, I think there's still a lot of knowledge that you're bringing in that would be very useful. So yeah, we would consider it for sure. And then our tech lead, who's becoming the game director on the title, is like a really good teacher as well for coding. So I think as long as you're coming in with an open mind and willing to learn, I think there's absolutely room for someone who's coming from the Unity background, but if has like some specific networking capabilities. Yes.
Awesome. So Game Dev asks another question, and I think this is just like a general advice. What is your advice on job postings that have 3+ experience required, but you have 0 experience? So a little context is that like most of our Discord are have junior and like students who are looking to break into games. So I want to like kind of transform into this question to just like, what would your advice be for these people that like want to gain experience but don't have enough experience to like have a job?
Yeah. I think, the the best way to gain experience is just to do shit. So I think, it's like a weird thing to say, but again, like we've hired so many juniors just because they had done like a bunch of game jams and that like they were suddenly part of like they knew friends of ours that had been in game jams that said, "Oh, you should apply to Manavoid." And so I think yeah, just do shit. I think that honestly is my mantra. I think, there's a lot more experience that you can gain by doing a lot of like quick gameplay, like quick prototypes that you're building on your own or you're building with a team and then showcasing that. I think a lot of people are looking for that one game shipped, specifically like the bigger players, just because the last 20% of a game is tough to do. You've grinded a game out oftentimes like for a year and a half, and then you're like really in the nitty gritty of polishing and debugging a game, and it's like it's the least sexy part of making games is the last 20% of a project. And so I think that's where people usually get tired, or like they want to do other things, and they kind of like don't have as much agency or creativity as they used to have. And so
Yeah.
I think that's why the AAAs are usually looking for someone who's willing to be there at when it's fun, but also when the going gets tough a little bit. And I think on our side, we just want to make sure that the person has just like enough talent or enough like core experience that they're going to come in and not just be a drain on the leadership group trying to teach them things also, right? So you're not coming in completely like green if you're coming in with some prior experience doing game jams and stuff like that. So I think just doing things, meeting people, going to events and networking is like really the best way to find a job in the industry. Even today, it's like it's a lot about the people and it's a small industry. Once you meet like a few people, you start knowing like you'll see more opportunities suddenly pop up in your life, just because you're talking with people more, and so people are telling you more about what they're doing or what they're seeing, and that'll stimulate things on your end of things. So just do shit, just go out there and do code, make solo projects, and go and interview. And if you see they are asking for 3+ years experience and you have zero, apply anyway. And just do a really good cover letter, and showcase what you're able to do. And once you're in the interview, that's where it's all played, right? That's when you can kind of showcase yourself and just show them that you're willing to learn, you're willing to fight, you're willing to be like a really good dev. And usually that does the trick.
Heck yeah. Just do shit.
Just do shit.
uh, so Shelby, we went over this like briefly at the beginning of the AMA, but do you all help with relocation and visa?
We
Um,
do, and
yeah.
it's always like a nightmare because it's like super complicated stuff, and it's extremely stressful for the employees that are coming in with a visa. So the way it works here in Quebec, like one of the pipelines is when you're in a university class here for a year, you get a year's worth work visa after that. So a lot of the people that we're hiring are like maybe coming out of university, or they've taken a year just to be able to have the visa here. And so the first year is usually pretty straightforward. And then during that year, we'll work with you and lawyers to be able to just make sure that you have your permanent residency here, and that we're able to keep you after that work visa is done. Currently, because of the pandemic, there's like an extreme like amount of time that's between like folders. So we're not like messing around with that stuff anymore, because we've had some people like where they were almost like 2 weeks before being deported, where we
Oh
managed to
my
get them through, and
goodness.
and it's extremely stressful, right? So that's if we do hire from outside of Quebec, it's something that we'll be discussing really, really fast, and we'll be trying to support you to get through the pipeline as fast as possible. So it's not perfect yet. I mean, Quebec is a really awesome place to make video games. Montreal specifically is like a hub. Like it's crazy. We
Yeah,
have more developers per capita in Montreal than anywhere else in the world.
that's
Um,
true.
but the remaining issue is still like immigration laws and how complex it can be. So we do support. Part of it is you just need to have all the right documentation, and part of it is just knowing how to like maneuver the government and bureaucracy part. We're getting better at the second part, and then obviously you do need to come in with just the right arguments so that we're able to bring your folder to the government, and that it's a shoe in so that you can stay.
Cool. No, that was a very good answer. Um, Next is Sophie. So, do you have any experience in art direction or maybe UI UX? I'd love to hear any suggestions for organizing your pre production and production schedule for art and design if you have.
Well, for design specifically, I used to be a designer, so I do some have some experience there. I think the way pre-production works for us, well, there's like a few phases. The first one is a conception phase, where usually it'll only be the leads on a project for about 2 or 3 months. That'll be like building up documentation and a case study on why the game should be made and how we would want to make it, how we would position the project, all of that kind of fun stuff. And usually during that time, the tech director will have started to make like the beginning of a prototype. Art director will have started to make, mood boards and trying to figure out aesthetically what the game could look like. And then the design director or creative director would usually collaborate with both to just showcase like, systems and mechanics and how we would want to build those. Then we'll enter pre-production, where we'll bring in probably another 3 or 4 people onto the team that'll just be able to start making the first tech demo of the project. And that's when you'll be able to test those hypotheses that were made during conception. So we'll be starting to test the art direction, looking at the mood boards and seeing how we can implement kind of that feel in the game, all of that fun stuff. UX UI comes into play pretty much during pre-production. The like onboarding is really important. Like every time we show the game or we have it play tested, if the game doesn't have proper onboarding, it's crazy how hard it is to understand certain games. So it's something that we look at first. The first user experience is really important. And then during pre-production, we're developing the pipelines. We're making sure that all of the all of the questions, all of the hypotheses that we might have for the game are answered. Especially all of the risks that we might have forecasted for the project, we want to have mitigated by then. And then once we know exactly what the full game is going to be, what it's going to look like, and like all of that is done in a production schedule, and we know all the assets we need to create, that's when we consider that we're entering production, and then we ramp up the team to be able to like just build all of the assets and make sure that everything is integrated into the game. And then obviously in post production, we're more in like the polishing and debugging phase just before launch, and then we launch the game and pray to whatever god you listen to that the game sells.
Yeah. Yeah. I hope this helps a bit, Sophie. Oh, you had another question even. So I am also wondering if for indie groups, are there things that artists could do which might help the rest of the team, perhaps related to concepts and designs? How might an artist help the level designers, for example? So do you know a little bit about that aspect?
Well, I think it's crucial to have artists help with any part of production. I think artists have like a unique ability to have people understand things, just because visually it's a lot easier to understand something than when you're talking about it. You know, like words that I could use could not mean the same thing for you. The way I could say an alpha of a game, and then for Catherine it might mean something, and for me it might mean something completely different. But when you're able to
Yeah.
show like show it on a piece of paper and show like no, this is what the alpha looks like, and you're able to kind of sketch it out and tell people, listen, like you point there, you see that, that's what I need. So I think there's a lot of help that artists can add to a team. I think the way that you're framing your question, I feel like maybe in the past you might have been put in a role where you didn't have much agency on other aspects of development, which is something that we avoid when we work. So in general, the teams are like currently there's a lot of the teams that are on Discord, and then once you're done something, people will be just sharing it immediately and then asking for feedback, and then we hope that our programmers and artists give advice on design feedback, and that our designers and programmers will give feedback on art. And whatever programming you're seeing or whatever bugs you might be seeing, you're telling the programmers. It really is like a collaborative effort to make games, right? So it's kind of crazy. Every game is like a little miracle. There's like 12 different types of work that goes into it. There's like a bunch of people with different crazy ideas that need to collaborate and come together. And so having everyone kind of be a part of the like process, and being able to just at least voice their opinion, or give some insight, I think is always positive. And I think that was one of the strengths for our last title, Rainbow Billy, particularly, is we really took the time to listen to how everyone in the team wanted to build the game, and we got an 84 Metacritic because of it. Like, I don't think that game wouldn't have been like half as good if we didn't listen to, the design ideas from our artists and programmers like throughout development, and vice versa. So I feel like, yes, artists have a crucial work. They can do so much to help a team. It's one of the most important roles, to be able to kind of visualize things, and make everyone understand a vision, because it's put on paper instead of just being words in the air.
Yeah, definitely. 84? That's amazing, by the way.
Yeah, I know. I
Wow.
feel like I've graduated as an indie. I have like the over 80 plus Metacritic. So
Yeah, heck
we
yeah.
we also sim ship the game on all platforms at the same time in 5 languages, which is a nightmare. I
Oh,
hope no one ever has to do that.
fuck. But it should, like, I'm guessing it helped a lot to get like more eyes on the game.
Yeah, and I think today it's easier for us to finance games because, we have that in our pedigree, and when we talk with publishers and everything, everyone feels comfortable investing with us, and like, everyone's considering our projects a lot more because that they know that when you're working with us, you will ship on time in all languages, sim shipped on all platforms with a good Metacritic score. And that's, I think, what everyone is looking for.
Yeah. So was the decision to make it like many languages and all platforms like something that was very important to you, or was this like a decision made near the end?
No, since the beginning, it was important to us. Like, we have a very narrative game, and so it was important for us that the dialogue be translated in as many languages as possible. Obviously, we have a publisher as well, and so we had that international kind of reach, and yeah, it allowed us to put the game in more hands. Again, like, we're all about more players playing our games, more inclusivity, more diversity, and that also comes through localization and having like a mass of people play the game.
Beautiful. No, that's like the good answer, right? I think it's a good base, especially for indies. You want to go big as like for us, like often and like as soon as possible.
Yeah, it's not always easy to do, but
No,
that's what you
no.
want.
Yeah. Um, so the Black Beast of Exmar has a question.
What up,
So
dude?
yeah, I do have a question, if possible, about bureaucracy. Why do some companies say we are sorry, but we can't hire international candidates? So do
Yeah, I can answer it because I am the bureaucracy now. So, basically, there's a lot of overhead and work that has to go into bringing a candidate to a specific area in the world. So work visa is like just a small part of the problem. It's all about eventually becoming a citizen, right? So it's, getting a work visa for like a year or two is cool, but then after that year or two, being able to stay on the territory. And so right now in Quebec, that's the problem. We can bring a lot of people in, but it's hard to keep them, just because it takes such a long time, and they're so selective on the visas they're giving out for like permanent residency here, that
Mhm.
I invest time in training, for example, someone for a year or two, and then sadly they have to leave because they can't stay in the country. It's kind of like it's not a waste of time, obviously. It's kind of like a heartbreak, because we would have loved to keep working with that person in the studio. So that's part of the reason. I think, there's a lot of work involved, administrative work that, some people or some smaller teams might not be able to handle because it would like really screw up their timing, scheduling, or productions. There's a lot of money involved as well. So, traditionally it'll cost me probably between $5,000 and $7,000 to have an international candidate, just because I know that I'll eventually need lawyers and stuff to be able to move some documentation faster than it should, and all of that kind of stuff. So just because of all of those things considered together, you'll be able to get international candidates when you're a little bit more advanced, like a little bit more. Like, for us, we consider ourselves triple I. Manavoid are 43 people now, so like we're not a small studio anymore, and so we can have the bandwidth. Like, I have help, administrative help that allows me to kind of tackle some of these things, but it is a little bit of a headache. So for smaller studios, I can understand why they would say that it's a headache they don't want to have. That it's this just a sad truth, I guess, of indie life. But
Yeah.
But there are programs that exist out there too, like that help us like companies be able to do it like more efficiently. So, for example, Montreal International is like an organization here in Montreal that basically helps candidates that want to come to Quebec to make games. So if ever like you feel like you absolutely want to come to Montreal, you can reach out to Montreal International and tell them, listen, I'm from this country, I have this skill set, I want to come into the industry. I think everything is happening in Montreal. I want to be there, and they'll usually do everything they can to not only like help you with your paperwork and everything, but even kind of showcase your your CV to companies and stuff. Because a lot of people are looking for workforce currently, so it's something that people will help with.
Good answer. Thank you. Black Beast also says thank you, and that's so sad. Yeah. So we have time for another, like one last question, and this one is from Tyler. So ArtStation seems to be the de facto game artist portfolio site these days. Is there anything similar, specific that you look for from programmers, or is it less cut and dry? Itch and GitHub, I guess.
Yeah, from programmers, we want to see code. Like like my tech directors are like stalkers, you know? Like if you send them your GitHub, they'll go through it. They'll for sure look at everything you've done. So yeah, I think uh you have like I think more UI friendly and UX friendly portfolio like platforms like ArtStation, and so it's like less sexy to send to GitHub. But programmers in general don't aren't looking for sexy. I think they're just looking for efficiency. So yeah, an itch or a Git or any repository that you might have where we can at least get a look at what you're doing. It'll be enough for us, and we'll take the time to look at everything. So yeah, part of it is, in your CV cover letter, maybe explaining, listen, it's not the best looking stuff, but like here's all my code. You can take a look at it, and just telling us that we'll take the time for sure.
Amazing. Okay, your answer was like quicker than I thought. So let's take a question from Garland. So, junior devs are hired mostly through junior job applications or through other means like applying to higher level jobs. Oh, okay, it's a question. So, I think we answered that earlier, but you said like networking and just like kind of was the way for juniors. Could you
Yeah.
just like iterate on that?
Yeah. It's basically like I said earlier, you just really have to do enough things, through game jams and solo projects where at least any application that you give, people can get a really good feel for what you're doing and what you're able to do. And so that's the first part. And then the second part is be everywhere all the time, network with a lot of people, and opportunities will pop up, like opportunities you never thought would be possible. So it's really is like kicking yourself in the pants and going to that like that cocktail or whatever where you might have a chance to bump into people, or there's usually a lot of game dev groups in pretty much every cool city in the world. So making sure you're part of those Facebook groups, for example, or communities like this, where just the fact that you're here talking with me, I think is good. But yeah, I mean, putting yourself out there and talking with other people, game jams, like these are all really great ways to kind of get a kick in the door for the industry. And yeah, don't be as shy to apply for higher level jobs. Like if you're a junior and you see an intermediate or someone that says you need 3 years of experience, apply anyway. You never know. I think there's a chance that you might succeed if you apply. There's zero chance of succeeding if you don't. So I would apply every time.
That's a good way to put it. I'll quote you on that. So yeah, like we're time. Wow, that was like a perfect 1 hour. Thank you so much, Chris, for being with us today. Um, so a recording will be available for everyone. So just like in a few weeks, give us time. Any last words of advice you would like to give our community?
Listen,
Or
that I can only say that the video game industry is one of the awesomest industries to be in. I hope that everyone here finds their dream job, because it is out there. I think, we're in a unique spot where we're able to like use our creativity and like still make awesome projects and make people smile every day. And during a worldwide pandemic, our industry showed a lot of resilience, and it even made more money than ever before. So I think
Yeah.
in terms of video games going anywhere, it's not. It's one of the only industries that's been growing significantly every year since its inception. And then I think it's just putting yourselves in a position to be able to reach your goals. And so, put yourself out there. I hope to see you at every event. And no matter where you are in the world, just like be a part of a community of people. We're not competitors in video games. There's so many different genres, platforms, types of projects that we're not competitors. We should all be collaborating together and trying to like get better together. And so, yeah, I hope you'll all be somewhere where I'll be able to see you one day. And particularly in Montreal, the Mega Migs event in October,
Oh
Manavoid will
yeah.
be there. And so, if you guys want to stop by Montreal at that point, it's one of the biggest events here in Quebec for video games. And so we'll have a booth, and you'll be able to come and high five me, and make sure to come to our booth and say hi if you do come.
Beautiful. Before we leave, would you mind sharing all of the lovely socials for Manavoid, yours too, in event chat, and that's it.
Yes, so I'll write it all down, but we have a Facebook page called Manavoid Entertainment. You can follow us on Twitter at We Are Manavoid, and for myself, it is at Manavoid Chancey. So yeah, follow me, and if you have any other follow-up questions, just poke me here on Discord, or send me an email at chancey@manavoid.com, and it'll be my pleasure to answer and help you guys out.
Beautiful. Thank you so much.
Thanks for
Thank
the
you,
opportunity.
everyone.
Take care.
Goodbye. Take care.